Welcome to Finesse Equestrian. I'm Ellie O'Brien, and today I wanted to talk to you about the mind-body method. So this is a really cool thing that I have sort of discovered over the last few years, and as I keep adding in little bits of knowledge through learning through different modalities and in my own life and with horses, I'm kind of piecing together this puzzle to what I've now realized is the mind-body connection. So a little bit of a story about how I discovered it. So I had been learning about the Masterson method. If you haven't already heard about that, I suggest you go and check it out because it is amazing. And I had also had my background in horsemanship and learning the psychology of the horse. So I had a horse come along to me who was a real anxious mess. He would colic at dinner time, he would colic when he was being moved to a different paddock, he was very difficult to put a bridle on, and he was very, very talented, but people had struggled with being able to get his mindset and his mental state in a place where they could really reach full potential with him. So he came to me, and to begin with, I had just started off with doing some mindfulness work with him. And some of the Masterson method. So I had been practicing being mindful, being present in the moment, my breathing, and really being together. Then one day I had our body worker out, and she was doing some work on his face. And I noticed that while it was hard to not notice when 17 hands of horse was kind of walking all over her when she was trying to do some work on his face. And there was no way she was going to be able to kind of block him or get him to stand still and have him accept this body work done. So I kind of thought about it, and I thought, well, what would happen if instead of pushing him away or trying to get him to stand still like what we may have done in the past, what if we just moved with him? And so I did that. So I put my hand up to his cheek where he was having a really hard time accepting her, and just like he had done to her, he wanted to kind of walk in towards me. He wanted to barge his shoulder in. So I just kept my hand there and I moved with him. All the while I was being mindful, I was watching my breathing and applying the techniques that I had learned through doing mindfulness and meditation. So non-judgment, acceptance, just holding a space, not having any agenda at all, and just being there. So I moved with him, and we might have moved together like this for probably a couple of minutes, and then all of a sudden he came to a stop, and he had been really pressing hard into me, like enough to make a dent into, you could see the indents around my fingers on his cheek. And so all of a sudden he comes to a stop, and he did this big release, lots of licking and chewing and yawning and eye rolling, and then he kind of just let down and he went into this almost blissful, well, what looked to be a blissful state, and quite peaceful. So I carried on this process and getting him moving and having my hands all over his body. And what I noticed is he began to release all of this tension that he had stored up in his body, whether it was physical tension or mental tension. So maybe it was a physical thing, like he had a bit of a tight muscle there, or perhaps it was a mental tension, maybe from having the girth done up too fast, or having the bridle done up too tight, or maybe kind of just forced onto him. Who knows? What I know is that there was tension there, and it was just incredible to see that through the movement, through allowing him to move and kind of express his emotions, he began to release all of that tension. So over time, over the last couple of years, I've been building on that experience with working with other horses. And it's just been the most amazing journey, seeing how horses release, where they release, and I guess where they get to at the end of it all. So oftentimes it feels like we're not doing a lot because we're kind of we're just being and being with them in that moment. But it just seems to have such an incredible impact on their mental health in getting them to a really relaxed and accepting, calm place, which of course is how we want our horses. Because without them here in that state, no matter what we're doing, whether it's dressage, show jumping, whether we just want to ride out on a trail, if our horse is an anxious mess, there's no way we're going to be able to have fun together. So I'll just demonstrate a little how I go about it with Texas here. So it's kind of just about asking a question, can I be here? And for some horses, that might be that you can touch them right away. For other horses, that might be that you kind of just have to hover away from them. So you can see already, Texas isn't very happy with me being here. He's quite a stoic horse and he's learned to cope with things. He has been a really neat all-rounder and he has kind of put up with doing stuff until one day he just couldn't cope anymore and it came out. So I'm working with Texas to help him to work through all of that stuff and to accept it and to be in a really good place mentally where he doesn't feel like he has to shut down and take all of his emotions internal. So I'm just going to begin by lifting my hand here. I can see that that brings up some worry and some tension in his body. So I'm not going to go any closer than that to start with. And we're just going to create some movement. So I'm looking to see, do we have rhythm? Because rhythm is such a great telltale of whether our horse is relaxed and accepting. If they don't have rhythm, like Texas right now, we can kind of see that he's stuck. So all of that energy is getting stuck, his emotions, and he's learned to just take it all inside. So he goes into that freeze place. Horses like him are often referred to as being quiet or lazy or shut down or dull. So I'm going to help show him that he can just move. But while I'm here, I have no agenda. I want to be making sure that I'm breathing, that I'm mindful, I'm present in this moment. Good boy. The other things, there we go, the other things we might see are flight, where the horse kind of goes faster, they pick up pace, so they're going into that reactive state. So we might see flight, we might see freeze like we just did with Texas, and that might be just from a little bit of a heavier footfall right through to not wanting to go anywhere. We might see fight, so some horses might bulge their belly or their hip or their shoulder into us. Some horses might even try to bite or kick. These are all signs that there's tension stored up in the body. Good boy. Okay, let's go again. Some horses are quite happy to tell you where they've got things going on. They'll be quite expressive about it, whereas other horses are not so expressive about it. But it just takes asking a question and being a really good listener. Not trying to fix anything, just holding a space, having no agenda, no judgment. Focusing on our breathing. And just being here for them. Good boy. There we go. And I'm just showing him that he can move his feet. That time there he came into me. So we're just going to stay together. I'm going to show him that he can move his body. And we're just waiting for some rhythm. There was a bit of a change there, so I'm just going to step back out of his space. He might have just lost it there with a big tractor, oh no, a big truck going up the road, but that's alright. Good boy. Hey. I'll step back in and ask the question again. Can I be here? This time it's a big change. The first time he kind of blocked me out and he didn't want me there at all. He even backed up. So you might have a horse that you can kind of move your hand around all over, asking the question, can I be here? Is there any tension? How do you feel about this? And they might be completely fine. Or you might be working with a horse that holds a lot of tension everywhere. So anytime you find that tension, staying with them, holding that space, and just allowing for them to work through it. There we go. So I hope you enjoyed this little introduction into the mind-body work